Hello and welcome to the 7th Artist Talk in our series here at Yukon Artists at Work in Whitehorse, Yukon. It's August 20th, 2020, and I'm Leslie Leong. And I'd like to acknowledge we're on the traditional territory of the Tagish-Kwan people, where the Taan-Quechan Council and the Kwan-Mundun First Nation govern. I thank them for sharing this land with us. I'd also like to thank the Yukon Arts Fund for supporting the Artists in the Window series and Music Yukon for making it possible to host an additional 4 artists and for making our programming better with their music. Today, we're here with Chelsea Ravensdale. Here we go. I'm going to show you her. There we go. She's our artist in the window this week at Yukon Artists at Work, and Chelsea is a sculptural artist primarily working in miniature and stone and antler. To give our listeners a sense of your work, Chelsea, describe maybe that piece that you had a photo of with the wolf in the forest, because I particularly like that one. And it's got excellent composition. So
okay, thank you. That was what would you like? What would you like to hear about it?
Well, what's it made of? How big is it?
Okay, it is made of caribou antler, and it was about, I think it was about 2.5 inches by 3.5 or 4 inches tall, and maybe an inch thick altogether, or a bit less. And that was one I worked on over a period of time, just whenever I could.
Like how long?
I think I worked on it over the course of a year or so. I was mostly engaged with my young son, so just whenever I would grab half an hour or an hour here and there, and then I finished it this past spring, or late winter, I should say. And I really enjoyed doing that one. It was the first time I made a carving quite like that, just like doing a small scenery into a piece of antler.
Oh.
I'd done a bigger one of that in the past, a few years ago, like into a piece of antler, a piece of scenery, but it just hadn't occurred to me to make a small one like that. And so I think I'll do more.
You like doing that one?
Yeah.
It turned out really beautiful.
Thank you.
So a little bit about process. Like you had mentioned that you're finishing pieces that you've worked on for a long time. So just is that part of your process, or
no, it's more just in the moment. Once I got pregnant and had my little boy, everything kind of froze.
Oh, okay, so you
but
used
usually
to work more continually on a piece and finish, so it's a little different now.
Yeah, that's right.
Actually, I was kind of interested in, asking you about, life changes, because you have a 2-year-old son, and has that changed your inspiration and your practice in general?
Both.
Okay.
I find it's hard to explain really, but like practice in general for sure. Like I'll just kind of try to condense more into short period, into nap time or whatever, and conceptually things have changed a lot too, and ideas. I haven't really thought of how to put it into words, but noticing, I don't know, I'd hesitate to say more of a maturity, but there could be, I think, hopefully, even just innately becoming a parent, taking on a big responsibility, hopefully brings some maturity with it. And I find I'm having more involved ideas and bigger scale ideas. And like there's some things that I will probably work on more over time. Okay. And I wasn't having ideas like that as much before. It was more just smaller like projects in the moment. So I see this and here, I'm just go do it, and then on to the next one. And
actually, that's another question that I was kind of interested in. Generally, you work in miniature carving so far. What inspired your creative sense of small scale, I guess, is what inspired that originally?
I think it's just sort of how I started working. I had, when I very first was introduced to carving, a roommate had moved out, and he was a carver, and he left me a little box of little pieces of soapstone and a little dental pick. So I just started working away on these little pieces of stone, and then and so I think I just generally had small pieces of material. And when I went traveling for a while, I started carving into wooden chopsticks and stuff like that. Just something as a little pastime. And then when I decided to begin carving again, because I only ever really dabbled for a while, but when I decided to actually pursue it and set up a little carving space for myself in my place, it was a small space also, and I was carving over an outtake fan so I wasn't breathing the dust and having dust fly all over. So I had a small opening for the outtake fan, so everything was just all right over the spot. It was convenient. And I seem I think I'm just drawn to detail. I keep seeing little things here and there, and sometimes even if I've started trying to do something with less detail, I keep finding all the little stuff, and I just wind up putting it in anyway.
Yeah. And so this is interesting. You got into carving because you had a carver in your household.
Yeah.
So how did that come about? Like, because lots of people would have a carver in their household and not do that. So what prompted you to?
I'd always been interested in carving. Okay. My parents have a childhood memory story that they passed on where they used to wake up to me crying early in the morning because I was trying to carve the soap in the bathroom. I don't remember that, but I grew up with that story, and it always stuck with me as something, maybe I'd like to try that. I always wanted to try it, but I also felt as a young person growing up, kind of felt intimidated by it, and there was nobody within our social circle that did carving, so I hadn't explored it. I explored painting and clay and pottery. I was always active in those things, but so once I had the opportunity, I was really intrigued. My roommate being a carver, asking questions and stuff, and so I think that's why he left me those things when he left.
Oh, nice. Yeah. And subject matter. How do you decide what subject matter is in your pieces?
I think my mind is geared towards natural, like the natural world. I'm usually doing like plants, animals, trees, sometimes like characters or character faces. But those are more like cartoonish. I don't really like for faces and stuff I haven't really been doing serious faces. They're usually kind of wonky or making a funny expression.
The musician is beautiful.
Although the musician, that's probably the only one that I've done that hasn't been making a funny face.
Well, that's fun.
That's right. Yeah. He's playing instruments, so that's fun. Yeah.
Well, describe this new piece here. It's bigger than.
That one was actually part of a bigger carving that I was trying hard to get, that I had started 3 years ago or something. And I was trying to finish it for this series, but being an older piece of antler, and there was lots of sort of punky spots in there. Part of the scenery, because there was a waterfall coming down here. Part of the bank here, I went in too deep and hit the punky spot that I was having a really hard time tying into the rest of the picture. And if I could have put it to the side and worked on it over time and made it all come together, but because I was pushing it, I just wasn't happy with how it was coming together dimensionally. Like the dimensions weren't matching. So I decided, because I put so much effort into it and I wanted to have something done for this display, and I didn't have time to do anything else. So I just cut the top off, because that's where most of the detail was, and the other pieces I can finish later, and so I just started sort of finishing the bear. It's a little bit more work to do on it. I'll finish today, but
it looks great. Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, it that's great. I love the trees too. Super.
I really enjoy doing the trees.
Yeah. Why?
I don't know. I enjoy doing them. I enjoy just working on the leaves and finding new insights of how to do the leaves, how to get them, like they're all blowing in the wind, or spacing them apart more, just working on the whole tree thing in general. Water too. I like doing water. I haven't done it. That's more of a new exploration, but I enjoy I enjoy doing water too.
And a little bit about, what about materials? How do you decide on what material you're going to carve, and therefore, of course, what tools you use?
In the last few years, I've received quite a few antlers, so I've been doing antler carvings more, and some ivory. So it's kind of whatever catches my eye in the moment, and I'm interested in stone too. I'd like to get more into doing things by hand again, which kind of draws me more towards clay, because I'm not really using soapstone. Though I do have some. So right now I'm using power tools, but it would be nice. I'd like to start doing more without power tools again.
Why is that?
It's more peaceful and quiet. I enjoyed just when I first started carving, I would just sit there and whittle away for a while. And I mean, you can have conversations with people while you're working. You can and with the power tools, you need the earphones and the fan and and it's lots of vibration, and so like it's really versatile, and you can do things more quickly. So they're great tools, but I'd like to explore their avenues as well.
Okay. And materials. So are they mostly local?
Yeah, mostly local.
Well, then you mentioned ivory. So can you explain that?
That would be, well, those probably not right local to like my place of residence, but it's all northern. It's, I think, mostly from further north.
So what kind of ivory?
The mammoth ivory.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, that's right.
Unusual for northern Canada.
Yeah, that's right.
So yeah, and they come out of the Dawson area
as well.
Mining, right?
Yeah. And I'm not sure if I have any from there, but I might. It's hard. It's hard to say. But I know the pieces I had from before came from further north.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, interesting. Yeah. And so you were working on this larger piece, it's kind of like relief carving on the antler. What inspired you to work larger? Because normally you work small. Like you have that one picture of the raven, which is beautiful, and you show a 25-cent piece beside it because it gives you a sense of how small. But now you're going larger. So explain what inspired you to go larger and why.
Just curiosity and seeing and interest. I mean, you can find stuff and like see pictures and bigger things too, and see pictures and small things, and just also the challenge of, I mean, it's obviously going to take longer doing something bigger, and sometimes that's intimidating because I like to often get something done, but so it's a good challenge too, like because it can take hours and hours, and I like the challenge for the patience factor. I like developing my patience. Actually, that's something I'm particularly interested in, and so.
Well, kids do that too, don't they?
That's right. Yeah, and so that's extra encouragement there. That it's like, okay, I want to be good with that.
So how have you found it that it's different than working really small? Like it must be quite different.
It is, in a sense, although how I'm doing it so far, I'm just working small all over the place. Like I'm just expanding it differently, but there have been moments too, where because it's bigger. One of the challenges I found actually is just trying to step out of. I need to step out of so small some of the time. Like I'm just gets like almost like too obsessive into the things. Like, okay, this is too much, and it would be better to just sort of let go of some of the super small stuff. It would just be better for a bigger picture, like and so those are just things I've been exploring. Sometimes just getting a longer stroke in there too is like that's just a sort of a minor example, but the biggest challenge I've found is just too much detail, and working away from that, just so you have something nicer to look at in the end. It's not too overwhelming.
Yeah, because it's so much bigger and all that detail. Although that's kind of fun though too. I mean,
it could be. So it's a big. So those are all possibilities for the future.
And how do you work? Like, so do you see things in a piece? Like, because they're odd shapes, your materials, in a lot of cases, especially antler. Like, so do you see something in it first, or do you just go, okay, I want to make a something, and then you just go and you make that something? Like,
I usually see, I like to just look at something and see. That's what I particularly like about rocks, actually.
Oh, rocks.
And the stones is because there's just so natural shape of things. You can just like, oh, there it is.
Yeah, kind of like looking at clouds.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And although the same thing can happen with a piece of antler and a piece of ivory, because they have their own patterns and things too, and you see things in there. So it does go both. And sometimes, well, like say with this butterfly, it's a piece of leg bone, and I had cut it in half, so I was just looking at like, what can I do with this half? And then it's like, oh, well, there's the butterfly, and so there's
And do you like draw on the material first, or do you just go in and start?
No, I just go in and start.
Wow.
Yeah. Sometimes if I'm trying to get a shape right after, and I'm just like, it's not quite right, and I'll look and I'll grab a pencil and I'll kind of play around with where I think the angle might be, or something like that, just so I don't lose it if I'm not seeing the line clearly, because often the line is, I just see it right there in the piece, so it's easy to follow. But if it's not there, and sometimes I'll take a pencil and just make a quick, but otherwise,
that must be really hard, because like once you cut into something, like it's a done deal.
Yeah, but I find there's just always a way. And sometimes if it breaks, it's like, oh, that was meant to break, because look, now that's way better. and so that's something I really enjoy about.
So you're obviously very adaptable.
Yeah.
To the situation.
Yeah.
You seem to be able to adapt whatever. Yeah. Well, that's really fascinating. Well, thank you for that. Anything else that you would like to share with us?
Not offhand, no.
We don't have any guests, so we don't have any other questions.
Yeah.
But thank you for being with us, Chelsea.
Thank you.
And we will post this online. And I just wanted to say also that you can see more of Chelsea's work at Yukon Artists at Work Gallery at 4129 4th Avenue in Whitehorse. And she has a Facebook page at Ravensdale Art or Chelsea Carving. Yeah. And your work will be featured in the window here at Yukon Artists at Work until Monday, August 25th. Is that right? Yeah. And Chelsea will be demonstrating in the window here today, Friday. And so come on down and enjoy her work, and come and see it anytime in the gallery. Thank you.